Hello, we are live.
Jolly good.
Once again.
Hello, folks.
Hello, kids. Happy Tuesday, wherever you may be. And I know that's all over the world. I know you kids come on from all over the place. Can you see us up there in the producer booth, Mr. Martz?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Good.
Jolly good. So today is going to be a really interesting dig into the filmic side of the Beatles. We all know and love the Beatles for their music, but our guest today, Bill Last, is a respected Beatles historian, archivist, and author, as well as a singer-songwriter. He's best known for his detailed documenting of the visual history of the Beatles, which is a really interesting twist. His book, The Beatles, The Collected Videography, is a meticulously researched chronicle of the band's appearances on film and video, spanning from early television performances and promotional films to later interviews, documentaries, and restored footage. A lifelong fan and scholar of the Beatles, Bill began collecting rare video clips and televised performances in the 1970s, long before the internet era made such materials more widely accessible. His personal archive grew to include thousands of hours of footage, much of it painstakingly cataloged, verified, and cross-referenced with broadcast dates, production credits, and behind-the-scenes information. And he did this all without blockchain. Can you imagine? So the book, The Beatles, The Collected Videography, it's a must for any Beatles collector or fan, has earned praise among Beatles fans and researchers for its exhaustive scope, attention to detail, and dedication to preserving the band's audiovisual legacy. In this book, Bill not only lists and describes each known video, but also provides context, highlighting the evolution of the Beatles' visual identity and their pioneering role in the development of music video as an art form. Bill has contributed to numerous Beatles conventions, fan magazines, and media retrospectives. He remains an active figure in the Beatles collector and preservationist community and is often consulted by broadcasters and publishers working on Beatles-related projects. So all the way from Connecticut. Thank you very much. Welcome, Bill.
Hello, Bill. Good morning.
Good morning, girls.
Thank you. Girls, what are you selling?
A book.
A book.
A book,
Indeed. Not a brush, the Fuller Brush Company, it used to be, didn't it? Right. Hello, little girl, is your mother in?
That's right. So
anyway, let's get straight to the big Hollywood question in the room. You were hired by Stephen Spielberg, the exec producer, as a script researcher for the 1978 film, I Want to Hold Your Hand. How did that happen?
Well, one day I received a phone call from a gentleman named Bob Gale, Gale, Bob Gale. And he was Robert Zemeckis' partner. And they wanted to do this movie about when the Beatles came to America the very first time to appear on the Ed Sullivan Show. They wanted to make a comical story about some fans from New Jersey who are trying to cross the river into New York and crash the Sullivan Show.
Yeah.
So what Bob Gale was looking for was an hour-by-hour timeline of everything that they did from the moment they stepped off the plane on Friday, February 7th, to when they went on the Sullivan Show Sunday night, February 9th. So even back then, I didn't have the library I have now, but I went through various things, and one book was extremely helpful. It was called The Beatles Progress, or some people call it The Beatles Progress. And this was a reporter who went along. His name was Michael Braun. And he basically hung with the Beatles in late 1963 and basically documented their every move. And it continued into being here in America up until the first Sullivan Show. So we don't use this word anymore. I Xeroxed the pages that we needed and also put in some notes of my own and shipped it off. And I think I received somewhere down the line a $50 check for my trouble, but I never got any kind of credit. Oh. So now, flash forward a number of years. The movie comes out, and another gentleman who is very big in Beatles circles, Joel Glazer, he became a good friend of mine, and he ended up writing a letter to Rolling Stone magazine in their Letters from Readers column. And so he gave me credit in that letter. So I did get credit in the pages of Rolling Stone magazine. And to tie it back up, Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, they directed the movie, but Steven Spielberg produced the movie, which means he put up the money to have it made. So he gave these two young filmmakers a shot with their very first film, and they went on to do all the Back to the Future films. You could look them up on the website there. They have dozens of films to their credit, but I think they'll most be remembered for I Want to Hold Your Hand, because it was the first, and the Back to the Future series.
Steven Spielberg is very well known for that. My good girlfriend from Texas now, Connie Leviton, she was a PA at Amblin Pictures, his picture company out at Universal. I was a musician. I wanted to shoot a music video, and Steven let her borrow cameras. We shot in his office. We borrowed sheets and towels from his prop department, whatever. He was like, "Oh yeah, Connie, you've got a friend who wants, as long as it's on the weekend and as long as it's not." The song is called "I Want to Be Famous." It's on YouTube somewhere. And all of the chairs and sheets and props and everything you see in it belong to Steven Spielberg. We borrowed them for the weekend.
Yeah, very good. And Steven's done all right for himself.
Yeah.
Oh, I would say so, yeah.
Yes.
But he's a nice man.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Good guy.
So staying with your historian role, how did you, it must have felt great in 2007 when Capitol Records reached out to you to provide them with videos and information for the Ringo Starr project, Photograph, the Very Best of Ringo. How did that come about?
Well, first of all, I just happen to have a copy.
Wow.
So it doesn't get any reflection. And it was released as the CD DVD 2-disc package, and it was also released as a CD only package. Well, I got a call from Capitol Records in the West Coast, and they were looking for Ringo videos because they were putting together this collection. So that night I transferred everything. The DVDs were just kind of starting back then, but I shipped it out to California and they used them on my disc, and I got credit along with two other people as providing the videos. But I'll tell you, I was the only one that provided the videos. And what surprised me is, here we go, Ringo, who is co-owner of the Apple organization, which owns all the Beatles artifacts, and especially Ringo's first several albums were all on Apple, that he wouldn't have these in his archive someplace.
Yeah.
You would think.
You know, and through the years, I was able to supply Ringo a few other things through his then record producer, Mark Hudson. So, matter of fact, I supplied him a copy with Son of Dracula, which was a movie that he did with Harry Nilsson. For some reason, Mark Hudson or Ringo had sent along to a Beatle Fest. Back then, they were on the big U-matic tapes.
Yeah.
I remember.
And you could only fit 60 minutes on one tape. So this 90-minute film, you would need two tapes, a 60-minute and the leftovers on the second. So that day when they showed it at the convention, it ran out after an hour and they didn't have the second reel.
Oh, no.
So everybody was left hanging 60 minutes into Son of Dracula. Of course, I remember seeing it in a theater way back when. It did not play in any nice theaters. I felt when a buddy of mine went into Bridgeport to watch it, we were in a theater fearing for our lives, because this is not a place two kids should be on a Sunday afternoon. But we were there, and for some reason, to get around copyright problems, instead of showing the title as Son of Dracula, they retitled it Dracula's Son.
How weird. There must have been another project called Son of Dracula and they couldn't get the, who knows?
I really don't know, but I was able to secure a copy on video. Of all places, it was released on Betamax. Remember that format?
Beta,
in Canada only.
Wow.
And so I had the beta tape transferred to a digital audio tape or videotape, and then transferred that down to a DVD.
Oh my
So I have a
goodness.
pretty nice copy of Son of Dracula. Again, it's not a great movie, but you can't take your eyes off of Harry Nilsson. He certainly had a magnetism on screen. And the funny thing is Harry didn't want any money for his role in this movie, which Ringo directed and produced and starred in as Merlin the Magician. The only thing Harry wanted was to have his teeth fixed,
which is basically money,
which he did. So you could always tell before and after Son of Dracula pictures of Harry, because just check out his smile.
That's funny. This is a truly small world. A friend of ours who is a makeup, special effects, and visual Hollywood guy, Richard Wetzel. He had an accident last week, and he has a denture. He had an accident last week, and his dog ran away with his teeth and ate them. So he had to have all new teeth made, and he had them made by this English guy, Gary Archer, in the Valley here. And he's the same guy that made Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt's teeth for their Dracula movie, the vampire movie.
Right. Yeah, I forget the name of
Interview with the Vampire.
Interview with a Vampire. That's it. Yeah.
And so here we are talking about Harry Nilsson teeth and
False
Dracula movies, and we've just had that similar experience this week with a friend of ours. Isn't that wild?
There you go.
The universe is a crazy, crazy thing. That's so funny. Last week, Bill, I don't know if you had a chance to watch, but we had Gary Astridge, who's Ringo's archivist and friend. Right. So I will reach out to Gary and ask him if Ringo has actually got a copy of Son of Dracula's Son, and if not, I'll put him in touch with you.
Yeah, he should have now, because as I said, I supplied a full copy to Mark Hudson, who produced Ringo for a while. They had a little bit of a falling out, and I really don't see how much if they see each other anymore. But that's the music biz.
Right. That's right. Exactly. So, Angie, another question.
Can you talk about what makes the Beatles' visual legacy as important as their musical one, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, audio is obviously the most important of the two. But coming right on its heels is the visual appeal they had. I mean, first and foremost, they had the haircuts coming out of the gate. They had the collarless suits and the unique Beatle boots, Cuban-heeled boots. So Brian Epstein had a flair for knowing how to present something for public consumption. And he did a more than great job with the Beatles. He may not have been their best manager financially, but he presented them to the world, and the world sat up and took notice.
Right.
And and then as we moved through the 60s, the Beatles did not invent the promo film. This goes back to the 40s actually. But people kind of paid attention, and I told this story to Ruth a while back. It came to be the end of 1965, and the demand for the Beatles worldwide, if there were 500 days in a year, they couldn't honor all of the requests thrown their way. Right. So Brian arranged for them to go into a film studio and shoot promos for some of their recent songs. And let's see, off the top of my head, we've got I Feel Fine, Ticket to Ride, Help, We Can Work It Out, and Day Tripper. So this brings us to the end of 65. And those different videos were then sent all over the world. And sometimes they made more than one version of a video so that people could say, let's say Italy, we have an exclusive video of the Beatles that the singing Day Tripper, that the people in the United States are seeing something completely different. So that was they just were always appealing. They were four good-looking guys. They were, if you're in their presence for 5 minutes, each of their personalities shines through. And I'm not saying this from first-person experience, but only what I've seen on film and video, is that you immediately have each one of them pegged for being someone unique unto themselves. So if they were presented as four wannabes exactly the same, I don't think they would have lasted.
No, exactly.
But their visual appeal was very, very
Right.
strong. And you notice nowadays, it's funny, they say the Beatles were teen idols. Well, none of them were in their teens.
No.
They were in their early 20s. When we think of teens now, we think of someone that's 17, 18, maybe 19 years old. Because
Right.
if you hit 20, you're over the hill.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And
Right. So they had it all going for them, and they just played into the media's hands, and they would control press conferences. They were very funny the first year in '64 and everything they did. By '65, you could tell they were starting to get a little tired of it, and by 1966, they would basically sit there looking bored, waiting for someone to ask, "What's your favorite color?"
Yeah, right. No, exactly. But they were great ambassadors for Liverpool. We were also proud of them. I mean, Liverpool is still thriving to this day. It's a multi-billion-pound industry because of these four lads and everybody else they gave the leg up to. How did you go about sourcing? Another friend of ours, the reason why we met, big thanks to John Bazzini for introducing us.
Yes.
Putting us together. His exhaustive collection of books and
John and I go way back.
Oh, yeah. How do you rely on friendships like Buzz to help you, authenticate and source stuff? Will you run it by somebody?
Well, not for my book, but I do use him. He's a wonderful source of letting you know what new books are coming out.
That's right.
And matter of fact, we just went back and forth because he works in tandem with a gentleman from England, David Bedford.
Oh yeah,
yeah, he was on a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
All right, so you got David and Buzz. All right, I'm going to go after this one film here. There was a film made called Borrowed Time, and it supposedly documents the final years of John Lennon. And it was going to come out on a Blu-ray at an over 3-hour complete version, and on DVD as an edited version, just going a little over 2 hours. Well, I looked it up on Amazon UK, not available on Amazon USA, went on the UK website, and there it was. Wow. So they tell me they advertise it as being region free, which means I'll be able to play it here in America. It won't be on the PAL system like over in England. And sure enough, I paid my $30-some for it, and the Blu-ray that they sent over somewhere between England and America got lost.
Oh yeah.
So round 2, I contact Amazon. They're very, very nice. They sent me another one. So I get it, and I put it into my Blu-ray player, and the logo of the film pops up, so I know my machine is tracking it. Right. But if I hit play, the screen just goes black. Oh, God. I can't access anything. I can't play anything. So then I got in touch with John. This was our last go around, or Buzz. He got one as well. Matter of fact, he's the one that told me to go to Amazon UK and order it. And his Blu-ray won't play either, but it'll play a little bit and then go back to the beginning, and then play a little more and go back to the beginning. So somewhere over here, this company is not got their act together. Buzz tells me it is going to become finally available in America. So just to throw salt into the wound here, I contact Amazon UK, and they refund the price for the movie that I paid for. Right. But they would only reimburse me for half of the shipping. So long story short, I lost about $10.
Okay, but you got a good story out of it.
Absolutely.
There you go. I guess that's worth the $10.
Yeah, that's right. But it's so annoying, isn't it? All of this formatting stuff is crazy. NTSC and PAL and all of these other things. I don't know why we can't just get a standard format going. Yeah, and the more I read about this film in
on Amazon UK, I started to get a little less anxious about it. It has no authorized Lennon or Beatles music in it.
Okay.
And supposedly this guy did another Beatles film, which I have someplace, and I don't remember being particularly impressed by it. I guess it's a film of a lot of talking heads talking about John Lennon in his final years.
Oh, okay.
You know, whether they knew John well or they passed him on the street once, you're going to get all kinds of stories.
Right.
Yeah. I tell you what, I was thinking of asking you, were there any surprising discoveries or rarely seen footage that you found during your research?
One that I always bring up is Ringo made a film with Maurice Gibb of the Bee Gees.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of a funsy thing. As a matter of fact, I have a copy of my book right here. I want to quote it a little better here for Ringo.
I remember hearing about that way back when, but I've never seen anything of it. They were all part and parcel of the Robert Stigwood organization, weren't they, at that time? RSO, or Stiggy Poo, as we used to call him. Remember?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. It was in 1970. It was called Who Goes There? It was Ringo Starr and Maurice Gibb, and it was an 11-minute video with comedy skits.
Good grief.
That's certainly one of the oddest.
Yeah. I would say. And again, I wonder if Ringo has a copy of that. Maybe not.
I got it.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic.
Good for you.
So in your opinion, how did the Beatles approach to film clips latterly in their career, like Strawberry Fields? Do you think that had an eventual influence on the MTV generation?
Without a doubt, because even their 1965 promo videos, even though they were music videos, they were just lip syncing to the songs.
Right.
So in theory, it's a performance, but they're lip syncing. But when it gets to be Strawberry Fields, Penny Lane, even backing it up to Paperback Writer and Rain, you could have now a music video with other images on the screen and not just show the musicians playing their instruments and singing. So as I said, Paperback Writer and Rain, they were shown walking around an estate. There were a few shots of them with instruments, but they were outside. You knew they really weren't performing the song. But then Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane comes along, and they're on horseback, and they're in a field, and there's Paul's jumping from the ground up into a tree, and there's a piano with all these wires on it. You know, it was a different kind of video, and that I think really opened the doors, because before that they were pretty much performance.
That's right. Yeah, when you think about it, they took it out of the four walls of a little theater or a performance space.
I'm not old enough to remember this firsthand, but because of Abbott and Costello movies, the Andrews sisters did many a performance music video, like Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy.
That's right. Yeah,
so those performance videos, even though the lip syncing, they'll go back to the 1940s. Let's see, the Beatles took it one step further, not relying on just performing.
Right. Of all of the visual creators they worked with, and we'll go through those in a minute, who do you think, and possibly which project, has had the most lasting impact on pop culture as a thing, as a genre?
I think the single item that will be put in a time capsule would be Richard Lester's A Hard Day's Night.
Okay. Yeah, that's
even when new bands make videos or movies now, they say this will be their A Hard Day's Night, or I love all the time when they say this band has a new record out and it's going to be their Sgt. Pepper. 9 times out of 10, it's not A Hard Day's Night or Sgt. Pepper, but it's nice bringing those titles in.
I just watched A Hard Day's Night about a week ago, and it was years since I'd seen it, and I was really fascinated. I mean, it was definitely a one-off, but Richard Lester's work, I mean, how often... From your research, how did Lester's unique directing style sort of influence the Beatles on the screen? And can we really call him the father of music videos?
Yeah, sometimes, like Richard Lester says, he's been called the forefather of MTV, and he says, I would rather have a blood test to disprove that. So,
Good
but
boy.
and again, A Hard Day's Night had performance videos,
Yeah.
but it also had Can't Buy Me Love, where they're just running around in a field.
Yeah.
So it had both styles. Or a quasi in the middle there when they're doing I Should Have Known Better in between a card game on the train. So yes, you see them with their instruments, but you also see them doing something else. I think that, I mean, A Hard Day's Night is my favorite feature film that they did, and a lot of people will ask me why is it so. The story of the Beatles is just the best story I have ever come across, read, seen, however you want to put it. You got 4 kids that really didn't have much more than a high school education, little bit of college education in the art school and that. But you have these 4 kids enamored of American music and went on to give it right back to us, and they became more popular than the originals ever were. To this day, I think most people would rather hear George sing Roll Over Beethoven than Chuck Berry, and that's not to put down Chuck Berry in the very least. He is a godfather of rock and roll, but it was a little bit of everything. The sound that George Martin created, the walls of Abbey Road, where the music was recorded acoustically. Dick Lester kind of did the same thing for films, and I love Help as well. Because first of all, it's in color, but they couldn't just remake A Hard Day's Night, and I think Help stands up. You could spend worse 90 minutes at the movies than watching Help. I think it's film as well.
100%. Our friend Charlie down in Florida, who was also a very close personal friend of Louise Harrison, George's sister, he's saying, I continue to find truly great moments in Magical Mystery Tour. What are your thoughts on that film? I think it's a hidden gem.
Yes, I agree. It's funny that the first time I saw a Magical Mystery Tour, because U.S. television had turned it down, and it was making the rounds of college campuses. And I was at a department store that had a record department downstairs. And when you went to the cashier to pay for your records, there was a piece of shirt cardboard, plain white cardboard that comes with shirts to keep them nice and folded and nicey nice. And it said A Hard Day's or a Magical Mystery Tour, Fairfield University, Saturday afternoon, 2 p.m., and whatever hall that it was being shown in. So we got out there on the Sunday, and that's the first time I saw it in a college auditorium. And it didn't know what to make of it the first time, because you're seeing everything, just once.
Right.
But, it came available later on. I got to see it a number of times before videos and DVDs came out. So I think it's unique. I think again, I think it's Stephen Spielberg. He says it was an incredible influence on him.
Wow, really?
And in his college days, that it was a cult classic.
That is amazing.
So,
yeah, I mean, okay, Bill, and so does the audience. It all just came out of a crazy idea of, well, why don't we gather a bunch of crazy characters and go on a bus trip?
Yeah,
that's my line.
Different ways of doing things. By that time, Paul was. I'll make a bad pun here. By that time, Paul was pretty much driving the bus.
Yes, that's right.
So he was looking for projects to get the Beatles. Writing songs and continuing. I don't think they would have lasted as long as they did until the end of 1969. Had it not been for Paul kind of saying, time to make a record, lads. And, even Ringo has quoted that in many interviews as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So fast forwarding to, we've talked about A Hard Day's Night. fast forwarding to now, but jumping back to the end of 69 and 70, Michael Lindsay Hogg, you've obviously listed the original 1970 Let It Be film, and it's 2021 reimagining. What do you think Michael Lindsay Hogg was trying to capture in the original 1970 documentary? And do you feel that any of his directing choices shaped how we remember the Beatles now as younger generations?
Well, it's kind of strange. Now, we're seeing things. Now we're seeing the Get Back 8-hour movie, and now in our minds we have to flash back to 1970 Let It Be. After seeing the 8 hours, it's a little strange why he did not make some of the choices to include things in his film. The one that usually stands out is you see Paul sitting at Twickenham with his bass on, and he's humming along, and he's starting to pluck some notes on the bass, and all of a sudden comes out of his mouth, "Get back, get back, get back where you once belong." And this is Paul creating that song in front of our very eyes. Why wasn't that included?
Yeah. Well, I suppose when you've got, so many decision makers, you've got Michael Lindsay Hogg, you've got the editor, you've got whoever put the money into it, you've got the Beatles represented by Apple, and at that time Alan Klein. Everybody was probably fighting for their piece of the screen. And if you've only got an hour and a half to tell an 8-hour story, pity the poor editor on that film.
Yes. So, I'm going to give you my take on Let It Be. Everybody, including the four Beatles, always said how it was a downer time. And John Lennon said it was the most miserable sessions on earth. And George left for a time. Okay, that's all true. But watching, and Let It Be only clocks in at 79 minutes. Watching those 79 minutes, if you take out the little argument that Paul and George have, I'll play if you want me to play, or I won't play if you don't want me to play. If you took that, I don't even know clocks in at 60 seconds. If you took that out, and a little later on, there's a conversation between Paul and John just looks very bored. His hands are up there. He's not even looking at Paul. And Paul saying, well, we got to get out back into the clubs. And, we were nervous when we were first started out. And, we'll combat that nervousness. If you took boring John out and you took argumentative George out, there's nothing unhappy about Let It Be. It looks like they're having a good time at Twickenham. I mean, there were miserable times, but Michael Lindsay Hogg showed good stuff. Of course, when they got into Apple Studios, they were smiling a lot more. And I think they're having the time of their lives up on that roof, because I think they all knew that was pretty much going to be it.
Yeah. But I think they also, when you see how unsure of themselves they were when they went back to Abbey Road, and they would play the same song 5 times over instead of running the set like they did in Hamburg, and they did in Liverpool, and they did at Shea Stadium. I think once they got on the roof and they couldn't have the indulgence of saying, well, let's do that song again, and they had to do all of the songs. Right. They pulled one out of their asses, just like they did in the old Hamburg days. I think they probably went out realizing, you know what, we're a damn good band.
John smiled more on the roof than throughout the entire film.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, no.
Freezing as it was. I mean, January 30th to 29th, 30th in England. Oh, my God. Bring a jacket,
Mm-hmm.
But, there were some bright, happy moments.
Mm. Yeah, let's talk animation for a moment. Yellow Submarine was unlike anything that the Beatles had done before, wasn't it?
Yes. When it came out, came out, I saw it for 3 Saturdays in a row at my local cinema before they changed movies. Because back then, that's all you could do. You could go to the movie there. I begged them to give me the lobby poster for Yellow Submarine, because it was so nice and bright and colorful, and I'd love to put that up on my bedroom wall. They weren't having any of that. So it wasn't until years later I got a Yellow Submarine movie poster.
So Al Brodax played a huge behind-the-scenes part in that, in the cartoon series, and also in Yellow Submarine. And also one of our recent guests, British poet Roger McGough, who was in a band with my brother Mike McGeer called Scaffold. He wrote a bunch of characters and a bunch of stuff for Yellow Submarine, and he never got credit either, unfortunately. But he was a script consultant on it. But Al Brodak's, he, as someone who's chronicled every Beatles film, such as yourself, what's your take on Brodak's creative contributions?
Oh, Yellow Submarine is there is no other animated film like it, which is why it's going to stand out. I will compare it to this. I don't know if you've ever seen The Lion King on Broadway.
No, I haven't.
Okay, The Lion King on Broadway, the way it is set up, and I don't want to ruin any of it for you. When you leave the theater after seeing The Lion King, you realize you have never seen anything like that before in your life, and you probably never will again. And that's where I put Yellow Submarine. And it is a wonderful story on how all these artists and animators were fighting against the clock because they had a deadline. And at one point, one of them had to steal what they had done if they weren't, some sort of demand wasn't being met. And it's just showed the Beatles' goodwill spread over these talented, creative people, and they came back with something absolutely magical for the Beatles.
And I also think that that almost put them in the children's book category, didn't it? Because it was so bright and so colorful, and kids, Martin and I sometimes go out and teach, volunteer to teach a class at some inner city LA schools. And it's called Art and the Beatles. And we take, a boombox, and we take some of the covers, and we give the kids all have art supplies, and they always choose to draw Yellow Submarine or Strawberry Fields. It's these bright poppy colors. And when you think, the Beatles post-war, they're all born during the war, and that was bombed out buildings in black and white, and everything was gray and dirty and smoggy and smoky and horrible. And then they ended their career with all of this incredible psychedelia, Sgt. Pepper, Yellow Submarine. They really, I think, from a pop culture standpoint, they took us from black and white into color, didn't they?
Yes. It's watching Yellow Submarine. It's like every song is animated slightly different. So you're one group of artists worked on When I'm 64, and another group of artists worked on It's All Too Much. So the movie is, you're not going to get bored watching it, because if you don't like what you're seeing now, in a couple minutes, you're going to see something completely different. And after that, and after that.
Yeah, no, I also just think that the visuals of, the colors of the costumes, we were talking last week with Gary, the colors of the costumes that they chose for the Sgt. Pepper characters. It was almost like a return to innocence of childhood with that color palette, wasn't it? Yeah, I mean, they really made some interesting choices with Peter Max, and surrounded themselves with the great artists of the time, including the filmmakers and the directors and the editors. And it wasn't just the four of them; it took a village.
Now, as you know, Al Brodak's was responsible for the original 3-year run of the Beatles cartoon series. And it was said at the time that they absolutely hated it. They, meaning the four Beatles, they absolutely hated it. They never wanted it to be shown on British television. Yet when they did a 1964 tour of England, they put a cartoon image from the series on their concert book that year. So, and I guess most Beatle fans, if you go back a couple of years, the item that everybody wanted to see was Let It Be. All right, so now we've had Let It Be, and we've had Get Back, but people would love to own the complete episodic run of the Beatles cartoon series, and Apple just doesn't want to seem to budge on that.
Well, I think partially, I mean, what I sort of heard growing up, although it was, grown-up conversation, I was a kid, was that the voiceover dubs, the accent wasn't right. It wasn't a Scouse accent. George. That was the main real bone of contention with the boys, that they just were like, well, that doesn't even sound like me.
I always thought the George character was voiced by someone who sounded like the old horror movie actor Peter Lorre.
Oh, yeah.
I thought you were going to say Bela Lugosi.
Yeah, if you listen to George speak in the Beatles cartoon series, it's really Peter Lorre.
Oh, that's so
It's
crazy.
not really Peter Lorre, but that's what it sounds like.
I mean, with all of the AI we have these days, you could go back and do that.
Oh yeah.
My husband produces audiobooks for busy authors who have no time. So we get a 3-minute snippet of their voice. He recreates their voice and then
Yep.
painstakingly has them read their book. You know, it's a lot of work. But if you've got an author out on a book tour and they want an audiobook and they have no time, you know, it's one way to do it. But
Yeah.
it's crazy. Speaking of George, you've even included it again in this wonderful book, kids. If you would like an autographed copy, you can write to Bill Last. That's BILLLAST at att.net, and he will happily autograph a copy and send it for you. Or you can buy it on Amazon anywhere, you know, anywhere there's an Amazon near you. If you're a collector, I really highly would recommend you add this to your collection. So you've even included George's handmade films in your book
Yes.
as a Beatles connection, even though it's mainly handmade was mainly known from Monty Python, wasn't it? Is there
Right.
a backstory that you're aware of how George got involved in the whole filmmaking industry?
Well, he was talking with Eric Idle. Oh, I believe he was the closest to in the Monty Python troupe. And they were making Life of Brian, and whatever the original movie studio was, as soon as they started to see some parts of it, they were kind of getting nervous that this film might be a little too sacrilegious for Middle America.
Okay.
So they pulled their funding from it, and the movie had already started being filmed.
Yep.
And George took a chance on it, and he put his Friar Park home up for mortgage. And I mean, if it had flopped, George would have probably had to move into a much smaller home. But it was a massive success, and George did a couple of other movies for Monty Python. But I will say my favorite handmade film, which is, other than George putting up the money to make it, but has no other connection to it besides that, is a movie called Bullshot.
Oh, lovely. Oh,
a very famous typo.
Yeah.
Well, this guy was, it's a very, very funny film. I highly recommend it if you could find it. It's out. I don't think it ever came out on DVD or Blu-ray. I think way back in the day it might have been on video, but I remember it being shown on like a cable network, cable television. So that's where I got my original copy from. I taped it right off the TV. But then just a couple of years ago, or not even, in the last year, I was able to acquire a DVD of the movie. I don't know what the source is. It was from a private collector. So unless you knew how to track this person down, you know, they don't put out a catalog. They don't have a website. I was just recommended to them by another friend of ours. Wow. And I got it, and it came no frills, no cover, no graphics, just Bullshot on a DVD. And I remember I was so pleased when I watched it that sometimes you remember things from a long time ago that were either better or worse than they really were. Well, I was pleased to find out this was just as funny all these years later as it was way back when.
Do you remember who's in it by any chance? Is anybody famous, or it's just an ensemble of people?
Yeah, there's no I don't think I put any kind of.
It probably wouldn't be on IMDb or anywhere that easy to look.
It probably is listed there. No, I just have let's see.
We enjoy a good giggle, so I will definitely have to look that one up.
Bullshot. So it came out in 1983. Up to then, most of the films had at least one member of Monty Python involved.
Okay.
So that was the first film that did not have any Monty Python involvement. It was just, they must have liked the script. They thought it would be a hoot to film, and it's very British. but very, very funny. If you can track it down anywhere, or if you'd like me to send you a copy, we'll take care of that.
I
Oh,
would
that
love
would be
one,
fantastic.
Bill.
And
Yeah.
so as not to break any copyright law, I will watch it, return it, and then you can either donate it or destroy it. There you go.
Okay.
So obviously, you know, this is a book that we highly recommend if you're any stripe of a Beatle fan, especially historian, video, filmic, TV appearances, and all that good stuff. Well done, you. What a fantastic piece of work. It really is.
Thank you. The best accolade I can possibly hope for from people that buy it. I love when they tell me they went to watch some videos with my book open right in front of them with a red marker in their hands so that they can either make notes or check off that they've seen it or circled it or whatever. That's why I wrote the book. It's not a book to go up on the shelf.
No, it's a
no, it's
workbook. That's absolutely.
Yeah.
So Ange had a final question.
Yeah, if you could travel. Oh God, I'm breaking these teeth in for a friend.
A horse, more like. Start again.
Yeah, if you could time travel to witness one Beatles filming or TV in person, which one would you choose and why?
You can put yourself on a movie set back in the day.
Well, one of my favorite pieces of Beatles video is the 1965 Ed Sullivan Show appearance. They did that the day before Shea Stadium. So they did 6 songs, 3 at the beginning of the program and 3 at the end. I really thought that was at their best. After that, it would be Shea Stadium as far as a full concert goes.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you something strange about that. In America, color television really didn't hit it big until 1965.
Wow.
There were a few shows on that were in color, especially RCA owned, because RCA made television sets and they were introducing color television sets. They wanted you to watch some color programming. So we hear the Beatles are going to be on the first Ed Sullivan Show of that year, September 1965. And I say, oh boy, we're finally going to see what they look like in color. But because the show was pre-taped, it was in black and white, and the Ed Sullivan Show went to color the following week live out of New York.
Foiled again. Damn it.
Again, we waited help. We got our fill of the Beatles in color on help because it's beautifully filmed and there's a lot of different locations. And so we did it that way.
We didn't actually get our first color TVs in England until 1968. And we bought one. It was a Grundig television, do you remember? And we bought one for then Prince Charles's investiture.
Carnarvon Castle.
Carnarvon in Wales. He was becoming Prince Charles, the Prince of Wales, and the Queen was dubbing him and whatever. And all the neighbors came over to see it. You know, the Queen was in a lemon yellow dress and something that looked, God bless her, like a freaking motorcycle helmet with pearls on it. I don't know what they were thinking. But that was the first color broadcast I ever saw. I was 8 years old, and we bought it for the royal investiture of who is now King Charles. Isn't that wild? Oh, Charlie in Florida is saying, I was at the 64 DC show, and he has a video of that show. Quite an interesting video it is.
Wow.
Yeah, not many people had video cameras. Not many people had video cameras back in the day, did they?
A few color clips did end up in the Beatles anthology and Ron Howard's 8 Days a Week, but they're literally seconds long.
Wow.
And most likely silent.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, people had 8mm, and if you were posh, you had a 16mm camera back in those days. But anyway, well, thank you so much for spending time with us today, Bill. Our regular viewers will know, they know Angie is the Limerick lady. She has a book out called Mrs. McCartney's Liverpool Limericks and Other Random Irish Haikus, and that's on Amazon too. And
Angie, I read your first book, the biography, and thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you.
That's very kind. Thank you so much.
Can I bear on with you for just 2 more minutes?
Yes.
When the finishing touches were being put on the book, it was a bit of a problem with what I could use for the front cover. because even though there are, originally I wanted to use a cover of all of their DVD cases, okay, like a collage, a montage. And I was told that I cannot use covers of DVDs on the cover without paying the individual photographers. I was there was using like 30 different covers. I'd be paying that off for years.
Right.
But inside the book, there are 4 black and white pages of DVD covers, and that's perfectly fine. I can use them inside, but I can't use them on the cover.
Oh, well.
So when I was in college many years ago, I dated the sister of a good friend of mine, and she was an artist. And I had a mail order company at the time called Beatles America, selling and trading books, records, magazines. This is back in the 70s.
Wow.
So she made me this cover which is the cover of the book in red, white, and blue to go along with the theme Beatles America.
Yep.
And I found the little painting that she did for me, and we adapted it for the front cover. Sadly, she passed away about 10 years ago. So I'm kind of glad that Nancy Chapo has a piece of her artwork going out there into the world. And I've had a lot of compliments on the cover. And so that kudos to her.
That's very sweet.
Nice.
Cheers to you, Nancy. Thanks for it. It's a great drawing or painting. It's really, it captures them both. It's almost like each face has got 2 sides, you know.
Yep.
When you get the book, you'll see it, you see.
That's right.
So once again, we'd love to honor you with your own personal limerick that Madam has put together. So if you're sitting comfortably.
I am.
Hours ago, so I'll have to remember what I wrote.
Exactly. Got your right glasses on?
Yes.
Okay. And do you want to start the count? So
Absolutely.
the right speed?
1, 2, 3.
There once was a Beatles buff, Bill, whose book is a wonderful thrill. He's tracked every scene on TV and screen, their filmic adventures distilled. Ta-da! There you go.
Very good. I'm leaving for vacation tomorrow, but when I get back, I will send you out a copy of the Bullshot.
Thank you.
And if people are interested in my music career, I do have a couple of CDs available on iTunes, or you can listen if you subscribe to Spotify. My first album was done with a band called Twilight Nuage. And the second album is just under my name, Bill Last. For those that may want to check out some of my music, it would be great.
That's fabulous.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm looking forward to listening to that this weekend.
So we'll go from girls to thank you for a wonderful afternoon, young ladies.
Absolutely.
Young ladies.
Thank you so much again. And go check out Bill Last all over the internet. It's a must-have. It's one of those books that you will have on your coffee table in front of your TV, and it's a great resource. And thank you so much for writing it and spending time with us today on TeaFlix, brought to you by Mrs. McCartney's Teas.
And thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Bill.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
See you all of a sudden.